boy, it's almost like there's been a lot going on lately. Oh, shoot. I should have... Hold on. Okay. Oh, so... The big thing I've been thinking about is how to really put all of this in terms that it's not like, oh, it's not insulting or offensive or something like that, but really put it in terms that it's like relatively succinct, clear. So I've had to roll this over, and it's because I'm not writing. What I need to do is write it down. Sexual market value, the more I read of Briefolt's book, The Mothers, that the famous Briefolt's law is derived from. So fundamentally, Briefolt's law, for those who are unfamiliar, and also I want to make sure, so this is a very deep right video. This isn't far right. This isn't conservative Republican. This is the end that is highly well-informed nationalist, American constitutionalist, and that this, I like calling it deep right. One more moment. So things like what's been going on with the schools and these Chomo teachers, this is something that we knew a long time ago. It was elements of the alternative right. There's actually one person in particular that I could think of that he saw all this ahead of time. And it's because he's involved in publishing, so he's read a lot of the work of the left. And so he really understood what made them tick. And that there's things that he brought up that he was like, yeah, you all don't know this. They admit this. Their most proud writer, what made the boomer sexual revolution and liberation of who you really are inside. All of this. Here are the key writers of this. This is why even using the term woke doesn't, everyone's just trying to not say cultural Marxism, because that's, I guess Glenn Beck is who became famous for that. But that is the accurate reference, being that cultural Marxism is a book by one of the great minds of Western Eurosphere socialism, and within their own group, they think this person, and they've done it. They do what it says in the book. So that's why it's the deep right and the right in general are accurate. It's just they have to explain all of this would require really trying to fundamentally not just show somebody the answers to the homework, but to actually have them copy all the math. You know, they had to, oh, you got to show your work, so they just copied it all, which would be, that's not really getting anything out of it more efficiently. It's barely any more efficient. It's like Stefan Molyneux once said, the problem with being an anarcho-capitalist, the problem with being a libertarian, is everyone's copying from your homework. You do the homework, and everybody else at some point copies from it. What really came out of the alternative right, there's nothing more to the alternative right than the alternativeright.blogspot.com, the blog for the National Policy Institute. There are writers who wrote whatever they wrote, and they ended up on this website, on this blog, and that's what started then the epistemology of what people would think of as the alternative right and the reactionaries. This is all like 2010, 2011, 2012. Trump had nothing to do with any of this. This really burst into something around 2013, 2014. Once you start getting all the Zoe Quinn stuff and Gamergate and all that, then you start to see something that was very important to me. I picked up on this, and because it wasn't really my milieu. I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is what these people are, how they do these internet investigations on stuff. This is obviously kind of a woman who's kind of comes across it. I mean, all these are young people in kind of a field of creativity, kind of doing what young people do, and okay, she's the one taking lewds and nudes. I mean, no one's accepting this guy's dick pics, I guarantee you. You know, it's the advantage is on her side. She's the hot chick. So let's start being logical about how this case probably plays out. So that's, and eventually, I mean, Quinn showed who she was. And by the end of it all, by the height of it, where she's talking in front of Congress, we really get to see how the machinery works. For the right, this was seeing how it worked. Seeing how, like, the Young Turks do their thing, but no one really ever wants to be associated with them whatsoever in the Democratic Party, like, whatsoever. Like, you're just like, yeah, like, you never see photos of them with a whole bunch of Democrats and them talking, the interviews. You don't see it. I mean, nobody. At least I've never. And like Tom Hartman, you know, it's nobody wants to be associated. Possibly Bernie Sanders, but nobody else. There was just a lot of these things that just started to hit me where I'm like, no, the left does not understand the right understands the left. And it doesn't matter if it's political or cultural. It's because the very concept of it is what it is, that is something that grew out of the right end of the culture as a saying, not the left. That's an old traditionalist saying. And then there's that. Modern women versus traditional. It's modern versus traditional. When modern women, modern times, modern anything, no, it's versus traditional. So that because if you lived around real diversity, at some point you encountered a traditional something. In my upbringing, there was traditional Chinese. And so these girls dressed in the exact same shit as their mama, and that came from stores that only the Chinese people shopped at, and they would look busted. These girls would look busted for like almost all of high school. And then at some point, like maybe in senior year, they like got a job so they could start buying their own clothes. They started to do little bits of makeup. They're allowed a little bit here and there to change their hair. No more mom haircut. They have their own hairstyle, things like that. And that those girls were the ones who, of course, by the time, like you see on Facebook, you know, a decade later, like this girl had stayed on track. Her life went a certain way, and it went the way that the traditionals tended to be, whether they were your traditional Catholic friend growing up, going to Catholic school, or the Chinese girl at the public high school. The traditionalists had lives that typically tracked along traditional lines. It was the people who had the wilder their life began, the more likely their life stayed wild. And that's modern. That there's no links between any of these. Oh no, it's just, and then they blame something amorphous. It's society, like, because society is this magical word. See, modernism is its own form of a type of new Gnostic religion, and that people literally use the terms in the left side of culture of Gnosticism. You see now they're wearing actual symbols that would be a part of a variety of kind of Neoplatonic kind of stuff. a lot of embracing of images that then come out of sort of the idea of the evil or the demons or this, that, and the other, and it's like, so the klipot, so that which comes out of the reverse tree in Kabbalism, which goes relatively undiscussed. Relatively undiscussed. So this modern aspect, the whole thing is there's nothing new. In the modern view is that it's not in any way murdering a child when you have abortion, or it's not stopping no, and especially even all the way to the end, pushing the legal envelope so that you literally can kill a child fresh out of the womb, and really trying to push that legal envelope, and it doesn't even make sense, why you would do that. But the idea being that there's not, at a certain point, that which is set aside or sacred or holy, and it really comes from set aside, kadosh, and it's a thing set aside special. It's not like other things. And so the hard part is, see, with Judaism, things get a little tight. With Christianity, you have one road. And there is wrong and there is right. Even, it was a rabbi who pointed this out to me. He said that's why the Jews associate it with the Greeks, because only the Greeks thought that way. And it was very interesting, because I had not really, he's like, that's a very Greek way of thinking. And so as we're seeing this kind of desperate hope that the modernists have, that the left has, we've tracked on the right. Well, there would only be, this is what's in theory they want. So there's a lot of kind of theory, there's theory of what they're going to get up to. Alex Jones would get into a lot of a theory of what they want. He would say it like there's a they that want that. But what it started to be was, okay, if so, at some point, there would have to be a structure by which this would be implemented to be done to the people, and this is a great evil. All I have to do is know how to search for it. Much of what is understood to me as what I categorize as the deep right is made up of people who did precisely this. Where people who look into, if they're trying to engineer the humans of the future, if there's an industry for this, there should already be an infrastructure for the development of such technology and the training in it. This would be a lot of training. You would have to have a lot of assistance there, because you've got to nail it. You would have to nail it. This is why when you fiddle-faddle with various nucleic acids, whether it's recombinant, dioxynucleic acid, the ribosomal nucleic acid, the mRNA, the messenger ribosomal, I want to say it's ribosomal. I'm not sure. Oh my god, I gotta look that up. I can't believe I'm forgetting that. It's not recombinant, but I want to say it's ribosomal nucleic acid. But that's why you have to nail something like that if you're fiddle-faddling with something like that, and it's very unstable. So is control systems that you would lock lots of people up, or keep people from moving, or prevent them from doing things. A jail with no bars kind of setup. And so seeing how China does what they do, and then, seeing you download this app and you could go to the movies, and you just show the commissar, Yeah, I am very well today. I am feeling very well. Thank you. Yeah, yes, I will wear talisman on my face. Yeah. We were starting to see like, oh my, well, here's check, check, check. Here's we're on the road to nowhere. You know, we're on the road. This is the end. And so it's been confirmation after confirmation of really what to me is, and like say Dr. Steve Turley, no, we're just seeing the next era. The next era is there's just, it's just such a massive confluence of so many trends all at once that it just seems like, why is all of this happening at all times? One of the things that I had to really start thinking about, because of Aaron Clarey bringing it up, and then there was various articles, especially in Revolver. Revolver's fantastic. Support Revolver. See, this is why I don't ask for money, because I have a job. There's all these other people, you know, like Daily Veracity and Revolver are give them your money. Especially Daily Veracity. Hook Vince up. So, the thing that I started to think about with okay, you see, this is why it's not succinct. I had a lot of thoughts on my mind. I was trying to really see how they could structure that they all came together like a Russian doll. All of this, let's be cool to the guy who assaulted Anna Kasparian. We have to understand him when we catch this guy or these guys, you know, that something should be done to them. You know, you insulted her honor, sir. You know, but you see, when the boomers are gone, it gets easier. Men like that are they're not long for the world. Once the boomers start to go, people like that aren't long for the world. People are going to do simple things to deal with people like that, and it's going to get simpler and simpler and simpler. This is just something I'm like, no, the logic of it is this. And so then I started, one of the recent confirmations of this was Scott Adams. That he's done. He's like, this is not reasonable for me to keep thinking that black Americans are going to stop beating up the Jews in New York, that they're going to stop dominating crime, where you have the now what was 1350 is now 1360, and this really comes down to 2% of the population. This really almost logically can't be almost any greater than about 2% of the population. This sliver of black males that are committing 60% of the violent crime in about 150 counties in the United States out of 3,000. So at some point people will just be like, this is actually very logical. Why are we not doing this? And there's this weird, the browning, white people are afraid of the browning of America, and it's like, but why are the Latinos voting for Trump? And it's just this thing of, why are you thinking people are going to keep acting like the liberal vote, which is white women, especially boomer white women, and key to this, then the very, very kind of thirsty white men, and consistently black people. Well, because I mean, it obviously is benefiting black Americans, because like literally today there was a whole thing about this criminal who commits a whole shit ton of crime in Chicago, already was famously criminal, and you know, keeping his career up, and he decided he was going to go on a high-speed chase, ends up in the next county just stops him, arrests him, 22 years in fucking prison. His lawyer tried to get him tried in Cook County, and said no. It was denied. They were like, nope. And so 22 years. Because if he was in Cook County, he would just, of course, just walk out the next day. As he had said to the officers while he was in the ambulance, because he wrapped the fucking car after going through the spike strips. 22 years. That's it. He's going to be past, it's 14 through 40. After 40 years old, men change. And it's just, you just aren't made of the same stuff that you were. And that's it. I mean, you're either going to sink or swim on the outside. The likelihood that you're going to reproduce is much lower. Psychopathy is polygenic. A lot of what we see with sociopathic and psychopathic behavior in this sliver of black men, this kind of consistent thing that that there seems to be this sliver that maintains from the 80s until now. It seems to be exacerbated by the welfare state and single motherhood, because it's known that single motherhood, in denying children their access to their fathers, their actual nervous system, their neural networks don't develop the same way. They have less ability for impulse control, that quite specifically. All of this together is doom for black Americans if the trends just stay completely natural and the same. To me, Kevin Samuels was I literally was sitting there, I'm like, this man one day will be looked at with the import that some groups of people put on Noble Drew Ali, on Elijah Muhammad. One day there's going to be people they're going to be like, no, he influenced enough men that they did this, and they created that institute and that institution, and they have this annual meeting, and that's where this came from, and in the long run, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be very specific people who are going to do that, but it's going to take probably about a generation, and it's going to separate. It'll be a strict separation of that. There are the kind of black people who are Henry's and I forget the other one. Oh, I can't believe I forget the other one. Henry's and training, hitmen was the other one, and the CIA and the FBI. So that separation, because black Americans actually had such institutions within the black community that did that, and going way back. And so some people might associate with Prince Hall Masonry, sometimes veterans of foreign wars or something like that, and there would be black veterans of foreign wars, or the local VFW hall, and it's mostly all black men. But there's other kinds of fraternal groups and community groups, and I mean even the women, somewhere still supposedly are what do you call it, Eastern Stars, whether quasi-Masonic or whatever. It's just that there's some kind of community organization, and that's going to grow mostly out of the necessity, and that there's enough people who are kind of demanding it, especially on the internet, because of people like Nick Fuentes and Pearlie Davis, who apparently are this seriously... the fact that in the song Ho's Mad, and then he says, I got these bitches paying rent, so in my mind I keep thinking of, paying, I'm living in your head, but I got these bitches paying rent and Ho's mad. is what happens over and over and over again. There's these people who somebody is talking about on the internet. Like, I keep thinking, what it would be great to hear Pippa Pipkin cover Hose Mad. I wonder if she would do it. You'd probably have to give her money. Put your money her way. She's kind of funny. The president's AI voices things, those are fucking funny. Okay, anyway. So apparently the fact that I really don't get this. Of course she interviewed Nicholas J. Fuentes. But, I mean, how don't you all remember, haven't you all seen interviews with controversial people? Like, that's like what makes somebody's career, is that they actually interviewed this, they dared to interview this person, they asked them certain questions, you got answers that you saw something about them that you're like, oh, I see your personality. That you could gather in what their personality is really like. You're supposed to let them say something, whether it's offensive or not. And if it's offensive, then they've shown you who they are. I don't, and why this is messing with people, I'm like sitting back and I'm like, there's really something very wrong with younger people. Like, I wasn't that tough of a nut, but I mean, you had to understand that there were some times that you were just going to sit there and somebody was going to say that. And you were going to fucking just deal with it. Why? Because also, it shouldn't fucking bother you. And this was the thing I'm like, this is what it is, hood conservative. They don't have, there's no Black to the Future. They never heard that song. They never had X-Clan. They never really had Public Enemy. Boogie Down Productions was the old days. These are all a lot of black people that everything they had was like from Bone Thugs and on. And so there wasn't, it's an empty kind of pride. They don't buy on vinyl the old, so Amazon sells, let's say, a reissue on heavy vinyl of Jackie Wilson. I think Feeling Good or Feeling Alright. Great album. Turns out you got the sample from Above the Law's Untouchables on it. Been looking for this for decades. Fixing to get that. And it'll come with a digital download. Because I do the thing to pay with Prime. So it really is a great deal for me. It's a good deal, and that I keep Jackie Wilson's music alive. Because very soon I'm going to start doing my DJ posts again. That soul music, the only reason I know about it is because it was sampled by the Untouchables, and sampled by Above the Law for Untouchable, and this is really something that it's because that's the culture. That's how the culture was passed on, little bits and pieces and secrets, and you're supposed to dig. Supposed to dig and find those secrets, and those secrets are real things, or real accomplishments, not the story of General Monk or whatever. Monk. That's it, General Monk. And the Albonians or whatever, Albinoids and the Albinoids, General Monk and the Albinoids, and big head scientist Yakub. So, not stuff like that. Not like there's all this stuff about the pyramids that blah 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 secrets of the black man. No, it's how incredible Theolonius Monk's work was. That's an accomplishment. To watch the dance battle between Bill Cosby and Sandman Sims. For the flaws of a man are the flaws of a man. You try to do that. You try for a moment to match Bill Cosby's fucking dance moves. There's a reason why he was able to look so hilarious when he would dance, is because when you see him battle Sandman Sims, you're not gonna believe what you're seeing. That's talent, that's skill built up over decades, and that's pride. When you have pride, Nick Fuentes can't hurt you. And then there's also the thing of, he was making a joke about how Italians are late, and then, black people, That was how funny is done. That's how man funny is done. I don't understand. Like, it's like, where I don't want to be all, y'all so white, shit, you need to toughen up. And it's just like, I don't get it. I'm like, it's funny. Haven't you ever been around white guys who give as good as they could get? And I'm like, haven't you sat there and kind of run caps and snaps on everybody? Like, have you ever been snapping? Met some cat who snaps? He just has snaps constantly. I'm like, how have you not encountered that? And it really is a matter of that people are that our lifestyles as a whole are causing dysgenic breeding. So it doesn't matter if black people are defeated. By the Browning of America, black people are defeated because the people who will come in are not black Americans. Black Americans are a unique group of people who are a mestizo race that only exist in the United States. Everybody else are their own groups. They have ethnic and cultural pride. They know what they are. They might, they're black, but when it comes down to it, they don't know what Cleveland is like. They know what Tobago is like. They know what Brixton is like, but they know that when they speak the patois from back in Jamaica. It's just these things, and it's like, they know who they are, especially people from Africa. They know who they are. Their way of life is long ingrained in their language and everything, and they're not from South Central. And so you should have pride that you are. And I don't even get, I don't get why this seems to obviously be kind of foreign. It seems to be something lost. And I'm like, no, this is what happens when it's all mamas. Mamas can pass on culture. They need dad there. They do need dad there to pass on culture. Because nobody knows. Put in the comments if you are a black person who saw this and that you know who Theolonius Monk is. Do you know who Theolonius Monk is? Because I guarantee you, you could, if you go to the local music school at the local university and you ask a white person who plays piano, have you ever heard of Theolonius Monk? They would say, yes, of course I have. So, are there black people who can play the fatback? If that series of words doesn't even make fucking sense, to put it in the comments. Can you play the fatback? What does that even mean? That's very black. That's black on both sides. So how Pearl bringing up things about relationships is just setting these people off, that I'm just like, I don't think you're getting, this is applying to white people as well. They're starting to gas up in bastardy as well. They're like, oh, I'm a dope MC's dancing girl if I'm in bastard culture. It's all about that bastard culture. Whoop whoop. Because the idea is that this is something that's totally acceptable, because it's like, well, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Arsenio Hall, Bone Thugs, first of the month, right, right, totally acceptable culture. How high? Brilliant cinema, of course it is, because I'm afraid of disagreeing. You know, it's like, no, Theolonius Monk was high culture. Blaxploitation films were fun and funny and awesome, and they were a great time. And people who weren't there to enjoy them, I really feel bad. You know, that you didn't get to enjoy that shit. But really, there's kind of this wimpy quality going on. A lot of feelings going on. And a lot of people that's like, aren't you too busy to have all these feelings? Pearl is actually bringing up topics for a generation that's unbelievably important. Unbelievably important. And the thing that I can't wait till she has to touch on, that Kevin Samuels brought up, and I think he had a show that was for members only, that was about social class. So low people, low ways, and people who had higher ways, and that this exists, and that people who are higher judge those who are lower, and that's just the way we are. That's America. That's the way every group of people are. White people do it to each other like fuck. I'm really hoping Pearl gets into that. But what it's like to be from a ginger Catholic family that's very, very wealthy, because this has its own issues with Catholics versus Protestants when you're at a certain level of wealth, the way people treat one another. They have their own cultural stuff with that. So these were a whole lot of things I've been thinking about. Sexual market value. There's another one I'm going to bring up that it's going to be the next one, about have you noticed how these men in dresses tend to be kind of ugly, small, kind of fucked up looking dudes? You know, 4s, 5s at best. On their best day, they were average, until they put on a dress.